Welcome to The Pivotal Point with Dwayne Barnes, the space where truth gets real, healing gets personal, and transformation is always on the table. Today's episode is a powerful one. You ever met someone whose story stops you in your tracks? Someone who's lived, pivoted, transformed, burned it all down, and rose up laughing? That's V King. From celebrity trainer to NAACP-nominated performer to transformational menopause maven, V King is the definition of reinvention. But behind the spotlight, there's been heartbreak, alopecia, toxic relationships, midlife unraveling, and still, she found a way to get unstuck. V doesn't just talk about strength, she embodies it. And today, we're diving into the pivotal moments that redefined her power and reminded her who the hell she is. So lean in as she discusses her new book, Unstuck, and so much more. This is more than a conversation. It's an invitation.
So let's welcome Miss V King to The Pivotal Point with Dwayne Barnes. Welcome, V.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. I am super excited to be here with you today.
And I am super excited to have you. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to play I know you, I don't know you, I know you, I don't know you. Okay, we're going to play that game. Let's do it. So I don't know you. Tell me all about you. Who is speaking? What is the speaking story in a nutshell, from birth to present in a nutshell?
From birth to present in a nutshell. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, here she is. She is a woman, a sister, a cousin, favorite cousin. I'm an auntie. I'm a pet parent to the most extraordinary cat in the world, Nelson the cat. I am a daughter. I'm a half sister. And yeah, a lot of people don't know that about me, that I have half siblings. I am also a fiance. Yeah, I'm a best friend. I'm a lover. I am an advocate for women over 40 to live life fully, freely, unapologetically on their own terms.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, where are you from? Let's get into the beginnings of V King.
The beginnings, that's a great question, Dwayne. I am born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. And yes, there are Black people in Omaha. My mother raised me and my sister. I'm an older sister. However, my father was in the picture up until a certain point. I want to say, wow, he was in my life fully up until the age of 9, and then not again until almost 17. Let's see what else. I graduated school in Omaha, Nebraska. We lived between Colorado and Nebraska. And something else I don't know that I talk about a lot outside of my one-woman show is because I've been dissecting this. When you start doing the work to really reveal to yourself who you are and maybe why you think the way that you think and behave the way that you behave, and allow yourself to be triggered by certain things. One of the things that I've recently unveiled about myself is the reason why I didn't go to college. Sekou and I talk about this a lot, my fiance. I think the main reason why I never even thought about going to university was because my mom used to have Nostradamus parties at our house. And for those who might not be familiar with Nostradamus, he was a prophet. He was a self-proclaimed prophet. He was someone who would predict things, and a lot of the things that he predicted came to fruition. One of the things that he predicted was that the end of the world would happen around 1999. And then when the song by Prince came out, and I'm listening to my mom watch these tapes with Nostradamus proclaiming that the end of the world was coming soon. And so my sister and I thought, well, shoot, there ain't no reason to go to college. Like, we're all going to die, so we may as well just chill. And that's kind of what we did. And I remember Nikki and I saying, well, we don't need to go to college because we're not going to be here. Yeah.
Oh, now hold on for a second. Nostradamus parties. I've never heard of that. Was that a movement in Omaha, or like, can you give us some backstory on that?
That was a movement. That was a movement in my mother's house. She would invite people to come over, and I remember it was a VHS tape. And of course, as kids, you're always interested in what the adults are doing, especially when they're all clamored in the bedroom. You're like, well, what are they doing? What are they listening to? And so we could hear parts of the recording, let's just call it I don't know if it was a documentary. I'm not for sure what it was, except that there was this man who made all of these predictions. And one of the predictions was the end of the world. And my mom was really kind of invested in this idea that the end of the world was coming soon. And unfortunately, we were privy to it. And so we never had a conversation about it, but I kind of liken it to today's fake news. Sometimes if you hear a thing and you hear it more than once, then you take it as the truth. Obviously, it was not the truth. However, it made such an imprint in my mind that I thought there's really no need to even aspire to more than where we are right now, because the world is coming to an end. And then Prince comes out with 1999. I was like, oh yeah, it's a wrap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that create trauma and fear, and did that disturb your idyllic childhood, or did you have an idyllic childhood?
That's hilarious. I think at the time it was normal because that's all you knew. In hindsight, now that I know more, it was absolutely not ideal. But I had some great moments, and I have a lot of great memories. I have also some tragic memories, and memories of, I think if our parents knew better, then they would do better. However, you can only raise children from what you know and where you are in that. Like today, there's this such thing as conscious parenting. And I think it's beautiful. However, I also kind of chuckle at the thought of my mom putting me in timeout. There was none of that. There was no timeout. Things like being able to say to my mother, that hurt my feelings, or I don't like when you yell at me. It's a trigger for me. Those, I mean, it's funny, but it's not. It's just, again, it was a different time. And parents, I do believe that my mother did the best she could with what she knew and with where she was.
Yes. Now, did you have to heal to that perspective or that consciousness, or did you always?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No. And not only did I choose to heal from it, I still am. I mean, it's one of those things where people think you do the work, and then once you do the work, you get there and you're fine. Like life is not going to present you with more challenges or more opportunities to allow yourself to be triggered by something that's happening in the present that's been lying dormant in you from your past. And so the work, you get to continue to not only do the work, I believe become the work. And so it's ongoing, and I welcome it because I want to be better. I think even at an early age, I always aspired to be better, to be more kind, to be more nice, to be more patient. It was always something that I aspired to, but I just didn't have the tools. But I knew, I was like, I know that there's a nice person in here, and I love people, and I want to share and show that. But when you are in the midst of your own trauma, abuse, feeling neglected, feeling unseen, unheard, all of the things that I think might be common in certain households, you just, you don't even have the language. But I do recall there being at least a desire. And so I think that desire has followed me my entire adult life.
And where do you think that desire came from? Like,
Ooh.
do you feel like you got it from your mother or your father, or it's just a gift?
I think it's a little bit of all three. However, I think it mainly came from God. I remember I have a cousin. She's my second cousin on my mother's side. She said to me as an adult, I was in my 40s when she said this to me, which was based on some of the things that I saw happening in your life and in your household and things that you were exposed to at an early age. She said, it is only by the grace of God that you survived. There's no other explanation. And this is someone who I didn't share much with her. So I thought, okay. And she was always there. There was a time where she lived with us on 2 separate occasions. She used to live next door to us. She's probably 12 to 14 years older than I am. And she was there for a lot of my early years, up until maybe 12 or 13.
So she saw a lot of things go down.
Yes.
And do you feel comfortable sharing some of those things? Because for me, a part of my healing is to publicly share some of the things that happened with me and to be vulnerable. But that's not everybody's story. The thing that I feel is most important, as long as you share it with yourself, like you don't hide it from yourself. So do you feel comfortable sharing any of those details or not?
I do, Dwayne, because I think you and I are a lot alike in that regard. And I've shared so many things publicly in my books, in my plays. And so I'm not afraid of the truth. I think, let's see, some of the things that I experienced, I'm going to start with something that's a little lighter. It's comedic to me now. And some people would look at it as something else. And I'll let them make that determination.
Okay.
When I was around 12, my mother had a conversation with me. She said, I'm going to start giving you girls allowance. But she was speaking just to me. And I was like, okay, cool. Allowance? What I got to do? What I got to do? She said, all right, so what we going to do? And anytime your parent starts with what we going to do, it's going to be some foolishness. My mom said, we're going to go see a doctor. And when we get up in this doctor's office, I want you to act like you can't sit still. You have a lot of energy. You're hyper. And then she referenced one of her friend's children. And as soon as she said that person's name, I knew instantly what I needed to do. But I didn't know why. And so let me speak in specifics. I come from a generation where, unlike today's generation, millennials, Gen Z, maybe the alpha generation, you don't ask why, you just do. And my mom had one of her famous isms or quotes was, I pays the cost to be the boss, meaning don't ask, just do. And so I was really a part of that just do tribe. We go in this doctor's office and I do exactly what she tells me to do. This doctor looks at me and he's assessing me. And he writes a prescription. And I remember him saying, okay, we're gonna need a little prescription for her. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. So I found out soon after I found out that my mom and my cousin, which was her first cousin, he's my older adult cousin who was a pimp at the time, he and my mom were selling this drug. So there was a street value attached to this drug, but it's a drug that people give to their kids if you have ADHD, ADD, or ADHD, which I did not have. But if you don't have it as an adult who doesn't have it, it makes you high. I don't know any of these things. All I know is I'm gonna go up in here and I'm gonna perform. I'm gonna do a great job so I can get allowance.
Wow.
And when I look back at that, do I feel traumatized by it? I don't know that that's the word I would use. I feel like on some level, a little bit of my childhood was taken from me.
Mm.
And I feel like I learned how to be on demand, how to perform on demand, how to uh, do what I was told on demand. I was always on kind of high alert. Yeah,
Mm.
I was always on high alert. Like at any moment, I need to be able to. I remember when my mom got shot in her side, I was in the kitchen with her,
Oh my
and
God.
I remembered her telling me before this, kind of preparing me that if ever something happens and you're here, I need you to run across the street to Miss Evans and get help. Miss Evans owned a burger joint in Omaha, and my mom worked there part-time. And I knew Mrs. Evans. She was an older Black woman. And so, again, you just do what your parent tells you. And on this day, my mom was in the kitchen. I was the only one in the kitchen, but Nikki was home, my younger sister. And my mom's boyfriend, who we lived with, bought some balloons back to the house. But he only bought 2, and there were 3 of us. There was me, my sister, and my mom was babysitting Mrs. Evans' grandson. He was a little younger than us. And when her boyfriend came back to the house, he only had 2 balloons. And I remember my mom being just like really upset about that. And I thought, at the time, it's no big deal. And she even asked, she said, how do you feel if you and Nikki have balloons and the boy doesn't? And I was like, again, kind of programmed. I was like, okay, I better say the right thing. Well, I guess it's not fair, but Mama, we can share. We can share. She was not having it. So she burned the balloons on the stove. And I thought, that's so dramatic. That is so dramatic. And her boyfriend was, of course, I'm sure his feelings were hurt. He was very upset, and they started arguing. And so I learned early on, again, like I'm sure most kids, that there are consequences to one's actions on a small scale. I just thought, okay, these are balloons, these are kids, and you're burning them. Okay, and you're really upset, and now you 2 are arguing, and it was a very aggressive argument. He goes upstairs. My mom and I are in the kitchen because she's still burning the balloons. And he comes in. I don't recall if words were spoken, but he just shot her. And I remember her body just slid down the refrigerator, like she braced herself with the refrigerator. She didn't have to say anything to me. Within seconds, I was out the door, across the street, at Miss Evans, screaming, yelling, call the police, call the police. My mama's been shot. My mama's been shot. It all happened that fast. And within, minutes, I guess, I'm sure it was a little longer than that, the ambulance came. My mom was fine. They took her to the hospital. I'm sure they removed the bullet, and then we were moving.
Woo! You have had a life. You have had a childhood. You have had a childhood. Wow, wow, wow. I was going to ask you, what was one of the first moments in your life where you knew things would never be the same? But you told me so many already, but is there anything else that comes up where you knew your life would never be the same, like your first pivotal moment?
I think I know the first pivotal moment in my life when I knew, because those 2 situations I didn't know, because up until that point, all of those things were normal. I had been programmed and conditioned to normalize it. It was normal. When the pivotal moment for me, when I knew that I was different. My life was different. It was almost instantaneously happening when I was in the hospital with my mother in Omaha, when I got to witness her literally take her last breath. I felt it was a shift, and I didn't know what it was, but I felt like something about this new existence was going to require a reconfiguration of my priorities, who I am or who I thought I was. I felt alone, even though my sister had just arrived. Time was suspended. I was technically homeless, calm, and like surrendering. Maybe what's the word? Imminence. There was a feeling of imminence, which is, feeling like something larger was being presented for me. And from that moment, my life has been very different. Something like, I think my level
So
of compassion.
hold on 1 second. So I know you're over 40. I do know that.
Telling all
So
my business.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I want to know, what age did your mother pass?
Oh, let's see, 2011. It was August 15th. How old was I in 2011? Oh my goodness. I think I was 44,
Okay.
43.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because as you just broke down to me, you had so many pivotal moments.
So
And
many.
because I asked you what was one of the first, and this moment came up in your spirit. And so,
hmm
am I to assume that because those other things were so normal to you, like because of the dysfunction in your childhood and everything that was going, seeing your mother get shot and all of the things that was happening, you didn't even really see those moments as pivotal? You pretty much just kind of, like you said, normalize those things. And not until your mother passed did you really feel a powerful life is different. And that makes sense, of course. I mean, I think most of
Absolutely.
us, yeah. So you want to talk about that?
For me, in that moment, there was a level of compassion that was so confusing to me, because I'm losing my mother. I'm literally in the room with her. I'm planning to move back to Omaha from LA, which meant I gave up my apartment already. I moved the things that I was going to take with me into my best friend Louise's parents' house. Louise transitioned in 2009. So I'm preparing to leave LA, to move back to Omaha, to just help my mom, just to help her navigate this. And I get a call. My best friend said, "You need to get here." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm coming for a visit." I was coming for a visit right before my final, ascent, if you will.
Mhm.
And she said, "No, it's that sound. We all know that sound." And there was such a sense of urgency in her voice. I got a one-way ticket. And I don't think I'd ever purchased a one-way ticket in my life. So I'm in my 40s, never purchased a one-way ticket. I get there, and where my mom was clear that she didn't want to be resuscitated. Called my sister. We're all in agreement. But we thought, or we wanted to believe, that she was going to go home, because we did talk about hospice, and I had never heard that word before. There was another distant relative who said, "This is a lot for you. Are you sure you want to do this?" And my mom said, I don't want to go to a facility. I want to go home. I want to go home. And I said, okay, if she wants to go home, we're going to go home. And this other relative said, "I'll come and help you because this is what I do for a living." And I was like, okay. And I called Nikki, and Nikki said, "This sounds like a lot, Felicia. Are you sure you can do this?" And I'm like, "Can I?" "No, I am." Yes. So we were planning to transport my mom home so that she could have her final. We didn't know if, the doctors never tell you how much time, but it felt like it's not going to be a long time. And I told Nikki, I said, I think you should get here. So Nikki's en route to the hospital. The night before Nikki arrived, I remember hearing this, kind of like if you have phlegm in your throat and your nose, and it was like this gurgle.
Is that the death rattle that they talk about?
Yes.
Yes.
And no one ever told me what that was, Dwayne. And so my cousins were in the room and older family members, and I remember they kept looking at each other. But I remember asking the nurse, I said, can you get her something to clear her throat? Because I just felt like she couldn't breathe because, she had phlegm in her throat. And everyone just kept kind of looking odd. No one ever told me what that was. And I guess that's good. But once that happened, the next day, Nikki arrived and literally Nikki and I were talking. We were standing really close to one another, and that sound, it stopped. And we looked at her, and instantly all of the color, the beautiful brown, became super duper dark, and her skin just looked like a baby's skin. It was so pretty. And we just embraced one another and we cried. And I'm just so grateful that Nikki was able to at least see her before she completely transitioned. And I just felt it was as if her leaving, she gave me something, because I felt so different. And it became a whole Wild Wild West rodeo show with that family. And who I used to be, or who I thought I was, would not have handled it in the way that I did. And I believe that's because my mother gave me something that I really needed, a level of compassion and understanding and patience. I was like, oh my goodness, something is so, and that's the only word I could think of at the time, was different. I said, I just feel different. Something's happened.
So do you feel like her spirit gave you that?
Dwayne, honestly, I've never thought of that, but I think so. I think so. And I felt it. I mean, I felt instantly. If anyone has ever questioned what it feels like to be changed, in that moment, I felt like I'm not who I was when I arrived here. That's all I knew for sure, because I felt it. I didn't know what it was. I don't have the right words to describe it, but it was a feeling. And I've never been the same. I've never been the same since that day.
There are some stories that just stop you in your tracks. Not just because they're dramatic, but because they carry truth. Fee's truth doesn't just sit there. It breathes, it pulses, it wakes you up. In this first part of her journey, we get to meet that little girl behind the woman, the child who witnessed trauma no child should, and still carries a burning desire to be better, to do better, to rise. From Nostradamus parties predicting the end of the world, to watching her mother be shot by a boyfriend, to being used in medical scams for street meds. Fee's childhood was interesting. But even in the middle of that, there was light, there was vision, there was her. And then the biggest pivotal point, the day her mother passed. That moment cracked something open in her, a new level of compassion, a depth of patience, and a quiet shift in her soul that changed everything. She says she's never been the same since. And honestly, that's the definition of a pivotal point. So I want to ask you, the listener, what's your pivotal point? What pain shaped you but didn't define you? Are you stuck in a story that isn't yours anymore? Because Fee's journey reminds us we're allowed to outgrow our survival. We're allowed to rise. We're allowed to become the version of ourselves our younger self didn't even know was possible. And if you're feeling that nudge, that pull to get unstuck, to shift, to heal, I invite you to take the next step. Visit authordwaynebarnes.com and explore the Courage to Be Freedom Coaching. You don't have to navigate the healing alone. You don't have to keep carrying what's been weighing you down. You just need the courage to be. Part 2 of this conversation with Fee is coming soon, and trust me, it only gets deeper. Until then, stay soft, stay strong, and stay true to your story. This is The Pivotal Point with love and the courage to be. Dwayne Barnes.